Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and we have more good Terry and Debo news. It's looking a lot like they will be playing this upcoming Monday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. We don't have the official word yet. Once we get that, of course, I will update y'all there. But not only does it seem like they'll play, we finally have Terry McLaurin speaking to the media. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but even when Debo was hurt, even when Jaden Daniels has been hurt, a lot of players have been hurt. They've still found time to speak to the media. Terry McLaurin feels like he's not even on the team when he's been hurt. But we finally have him speaking to the media. I'm gonna even show you the clips of him speaking and a lot of the interesting things that he said there. Then we also have to do a big time update for Payne now. Apparently he has a new injury, and of course I got to update y'all on the new Cosmi injury that came out Thursday, October 23rd. And then most importantly for this video, the reason I have him as the background for this video, Whitt Jr. broke down a lot of the changes that will be coming to this defense. More specifically, some of the younger guys getting more playing time. He even named specific guys that will be playing more. You're going to be really happy to hear this. Of course, we're going to have to break all of that down and more. But before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Appreciate y'all for supporting every video. Shouts out to Watch to the End Gang. Of course, I'm recording this right now. It's 3:38 a.m. So shouts out to the late night crew. Shouts out the Noti Gang that will at the same time double up as the late night crew if you're here immediately when I drop this video by like 5 a.m. And of course, I'm gonna have you updated on everything going on throughout this week. So we're gonna get like an official final injury report sometime later today, as in Saturday, October 25th, with like the who's questionable, who's out, who's in, and stuff like that. Of course, I will have that to y'all probably sometime in the evening, so just stay tuned for that. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so we have more positive Terry McLaurin and Debo Samuel news. And as we're kind of talking about it and diving into it, I wanted to show y'all some clips from yesterday's practice. That was Friday, October 24th. So again, I haven't been to sleep yet, so to me it still feels like earlier today, but for most of y'all that are watching this, technically it would have been yesterday. Already showed y'all the clips from Thursday's practice. Here are the clips from Friday's practice as well. And just to let you know, great news, and I'm gonna show y'all the official injury report from Friday's practice when we start talking about Payne and Cosmi. But Terry McLaurin, of course, dealing with a quad injury, and Debo Samuel dealing with a heel injury, both practiced in full again. So now that is 2 straight days, 2 out of 2 days, both practice days that they have had. Both Terry McLaurin and Debo Samuel have practiced full, not limited, definitely not a DNP. Full designations for both of those guys so far all week. Of course, this is a very positive sign for their chances of potentially playing Monday night. If I had to put money on it right now, I would definitely bet that they play, and this is huge, man. Shouts out to Josh Taylor of A to Z Sports. He brings up a great point that McLaurin has missed the last 4 games after suffering a quad injury against the Las Vegas Raiders. And mind you, again, if he would have done the thing that we have been screaming at him to do since last season, and especially throughout the off season, once he finally showed up for practice, and then he started to show himself, like there was like that clip from one of the training camp practices, once he finally did pull up after the holdout, he got his contract signed, he was practicing some hop steps to kind of look like, okay, if a guy's trying to tackle me from behind, trying to shoestring tackle me, grab me by the ankles, I'll be ready for that. Lo and behold, in the Raiders game, his best play by far of the season, he allows himself to get tackled from behind, and not only that, but then the guy ends up injuring him because he did not high step or even just have enough straight up speed to just escape the guy. And now he has missed 4 games. And of course, his presence has been felt. Samuel has been playing through a bruised heel for weeks, but only missed the game against the Cowboys. So that's the difference between those two. Debo Samuel's been playing through his injuries, probably shouldn't have. Again, that Bears game, he definitely shouldn't have been out there because that was a shell of himself. You know, I feel like if Debo would have went out there and looked like that, maybe week 1, people would have been like, oh, here we go. Bad free agency move and all of that type of stuff. We traded for this guy. That was a waste of a draft pick. I'm happy that we at least got a few weeks of dominant, unguardable, unstoppable Deebo Samuel before he went out there trying to fight through an injury against the Bears and did not look like himself at all. But at least before that game, there was a himself to compare him to. So, even though he was a shell of himself, he had no business of playing against the Bears, at least there's no doubt going on like, oh, maybe Deebo's washed up. We know once he finally comes back and he's fully healthy, he's going to be right back to being the best. Seemed like not only just the best weapon on their entire team, but arguably the best offensive player on the team, arguably the best player on the entire team any game that he's been healthy in. But continuing with Josh Taylor, neither wide receiver has played together since week 2. That's a good point right there. Terry has been out since the Raiders game, after that midway through there, and Deebo Samuel has been out for a couple of weeks. And we are now heading into week 8 with your top 2 receivers haven't played together for a while, man. And of course, the defense has been a liability, but injuries to key players haven't helped the season go as planned either. Again, I blame injuries more than anything else. I feel like I said this in my last video, I feel like we do have defensive deficiencies around here. I feel like we lack speed in the linebacker room. I feel like our coverage overall is very inconsistent, but I feel like the injury to Will Harris has a lot to do with that as well, especially when it comes to covering tight ends and running backs, but that's part of the injury conversation. But even outside of the injuries, there are some things that we're struggling with, even like ignoring that. Even before the team started to drop like flies and we got hit with the worst injury bug I've seen for a burgundy and gold team in years. But I feel like injuries still play a larger role than anything else. How are you going to stop the run, set the edge, and rush the passer without your top 3 edge rushers? Mind you, one of them was 5th in the NFL in sacks before he got hurt. And even then, he was hurt the past couple of weeks that he was going out there and still getting sacks, but he just was fighting through the pain and stuff like that. So, and then I don't know what you're supposed to do. Again, Will Harris was the tight end eraser. He had a pass breakup one-on-one against Brock Bowers. When healthy, the best tight end in all of football, especially going back to last season. And now you don't have that guy. And suddenly, after Will Harris gets hurt, every tight end, no matter the team, is just balling out against us. I feel like that plays a large role in everything. And of course, with your receivers hurt, I already gave y'all the stats. Dallas Cowboys ran the least man in the NFL throughout the entire season until they played us, and then they played man more than they ever had by far all season, nearly 50% of snaps, because they realized. And the Bears figured this out, even though Deebo Samuel was banged up. He was out there, but he was hurt so bad that they utilized that same strategy as well. Why not just man up on these receivers that aren't big threats and then use 7 or 8 guys to stack the box and stop the run and force these receivers that are inexperienced and not really threatening to go get open, and Jaden Daniels to find a way to get them the ball while we're sending a lot of pressure at them, playing a lot of zone. We'll man up on these guys, but have linebackers in zone coverage underneath. It'll be mixed coverages, all types of confusing stuff. We're going to prioritize stopping the run. We're going to put more bodies into stopping the run and just dare you to take advantage of the lack of bodies we have to stop the pass. And we just couldn't really do it on a consistent and efficient basis because you didn't have Terry nor Deebo Samuel, technically nor Noah Brown, but I'm not necessarily counting him until I can see him out there healthy and prove that he can stay healthy long term. But my point is, again, injuries have derailed this season more than anything else. You can blame the refs for some of it. You can blame play calling for some of it. You can blame the coaching staff. You can blame our off-season moves. Again, we have deficiencies even outside of the injuries, but injuries are the biggest reason we're in the situations that we've been these last few weeks. But speaking of injuries, again, now that you have Terry and Deebo back, even though you will not have Jaden against the Chiefs, it's still good to hear that you'll have your top 2 receivers. And speaking of hearing the receivers, Terry McLaurin finally spoke to the media for the first time in weeks, bro. Terry McLaurin said he's ready to roll Monday night. So he says he's good to go. He said, quote, "I feel like myself," unquote. And that's interesting because it sounds like he wasn't feeling like himself until this week. He said, but the missed time has been challenging. I'm assuming that he means like mentally, because of course he's wanting to be out there for his team, with his team, not being able to go out there and do that. I'm pretty sure it's been pretty taxing mentally on him. He also said that as a competitor, he wanted to get back to being himself as quickly as possible, but had to trust in the rehab process and the medical staff to do it right, to not bring him back too early, basically. Also admits the season back to the offseason has been tough, including like the contract negotiations, things like that. Up and down a lot, but has leaned on his support system. Now, if you want to hear Terry himself, he talked about how, and again, this is his first time speaking to reporters since suffering the quad hip flexor strain, whatever it was, back in week 3, which is already weird. He was asked, among other things, about the challenges of waiting to feel 100% versus just rushing back earlier. Here is a 54-second clip of Terry McLaurin replying to that question if you want to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a few times where I feel like I could be out there. I think there's one thing that you kind of got to keep in mind during the rehab process. Like, it's a very controlled environment, which is great for anybody that's hurt. But when you go out there and, you know, the guardrails are off, you know, there's a lot of unexpected things that can happen. And so to be able to just to be myself without any hindrance and pain is extremely important. When you get out there back on the field, you're going to get pressed man, you're going to get grabbed, you're going to get hit. And I just didn't want to be in a position where I'm constantly dealing with this. And so there was a lot of times I felt like I was getting there, but you know, at the end of the day, I just tried to trust my body and trust what, you know, the training staff was seeing during my rehab process. And I'm happy to say that I feel like myself, so I'm just looking forward to getting back out there.
And then Ben Standig asked Terry if the recovery period went as or longer than expected. Said the quad was the first for him, so he followed the training staff. Later said he felt great doing drills on Monday, and now again he's practiced in back-to-back practices in full for the first time since all the way back before the Week 3 game against the Raiders. Here's a 1 minute and 2 second clip of Terry replying and breaking all of that down.
To this team and try to help us win.
When you first got hurt, do you have an expectation, like kind of how long it would take, and what's been like the challenge in terms of like the injury and your football and coming back? And
yeah, I mean, I've never dealt with that injury before, so I didn't really know what to expect. I just trusted the medical staff and everything just to try to stay like according to the plan that was laid out for me. And you know, as you go, like, I'm an explosive athlete, so you know, a lot of things that are part of my game I need to feel that are 100% before I can put myself out there, because I'm not only hurting the team, but I'm hurting myself. So that's part of it as well, being able to accelerate and run by people and slam on the brakes. So that's my game, you know what I mean? So you know, my injury hindered a lot of that, but I feel really good right now.
Were you hurt on that deep ball against the Raiders? Was that when you injured it, or was this something?
Yeah, that was on that play.
Now, before we move on to the rest of this video, and the main parts that I have to update y'all on are Daron Payne's new injury and Samuel Cosmi's injury that suddenly appeared on the practice report as of Thursday this week, just a couple of days ago. So I'm gonna give you the updates for those two priority starters for this team, bro, because Daron Payne against the Cowboys looked like the best player on the entire team, and Samuel Cosmi already went out there and started looking like one of our best offensive linemen. I'm gonna give y'all the full-blown injury update along with that. Then of course we got to dive into everything that Joe Whitt Jr. said in his press conference after Friday's practice. You'll definitely want to stick around for that. But before we get into everything, man, shouts out to Sleeper, man, because with them you have a chance to 1,000 times your cash. Again, if you put down $1, that's a chance to get back 1,000, depending on how you finesse it with daily fantasy football, bro. Washington football, we're starting to get a lot of our guys back. We don't have Jaden, and we're still missing our top 3 edge rushers, but man, having our weapons back should potentially open up our run game, so guys like Terry, Debo, and Bill should have a great time. If our defense can maybe get some opportune stops, maybe force a couple of turnovers somehow, maybe we can find a way to get this game and have a huge upset. I mean, that could be the biggest upset of the entire weekend, bro. But you can pick on stats for these stars, again, like Terry, Debo, and Bill, like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more for up to 1,000 times payout on Sleeper. And right now, new users can even get a free $20 without a deposit on top of the already 100% match up to $100. Promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, or you can just click the link at the top of the description of this video and every video on live stream I'm doing all season. And again, I will be live streaming this Chiefs game Monday night. And of course, it's not just the NFL. I know I like to talk about football and everything like that. This is a Commanders channel, but NBA is getting going. I mean, I know y'all saw that first game between the Thunder and the Rockets, and I think the Thunder ended up now going back-to-back games double overtime, because I think they just went to double overtime with Indiana earlier tonight or something like that. But either way, MLB as well, they're like in the full swing of like their final series, and then NHL, college football is in the full swing of things. College basketball will be back at some point. Sleeper has all of that, bro. But now let's dive into some fun picks that I'm starting to get a little creative now. Like if you take a look on the screen right now, I'm doing a play, an 8-leg where I could potentially turn $20 into 1,661. Shouts out to Sleeper, bro. And I'm doing purely interceptions for quarterbacks and kicker points. That is it. So interceptions wise at the top, you see Dylan Gabriel hasn't thrown an interception at all at any point in his career so far. Now, I'm not gonna lie, last week, who were they playing against? The Dolphins? No, the Patriots. He nearly threw one. It almost went out of the DB's hands. He was close, but Dylan Gabriel still yet to throw an interception. So I went under him. I went under Drake May, because the last time he threw an interception was all the way back like September 21st. And then Jalen Hurts doesn't throw interceptions. He doesn't throw the ball much anyway. And now it seems like he's finally starting to get into a swing of things. I mean, that game against the Vikings last weekend was the best I've seen Jalen Hurts look in a very long time, especially this season. And the only game he's thrown an interception was against the Giants. And that was like that crazy interception towards the end of the game. He just doesn't throw the ball enough to really be at risk of throwing interceptions. And then lastly, you also have Pat Mahomes at the bottom. He just doesn't really throw interceptions typically. He had one against the Jaguars. They're the #1 turnover defense in the NFL, and the Philadelphia Eagles week 1. That is it. Or the way long ago back on September 14th, that wasn't week 1, but either way, he just doesn't really throw interceptions like that, to be honest with you. And I mean, I'm rooting for the Commanders to get some interceptions. This is one of those ones where if we do get interceptions, maybe we have a chance to win that game. If we don't, then my 8 leg is still intact. So just, hey, if you want to follow it, you go ahead. And then kicker wise, Matt Gay, I think he can get you 5.5 points. He typically does in a game. That's just what he does. He had 11 and 13 just a couple of weeks ago, even 9 the week after that. Then you have Ryan Fitzgerald. You know what I'm saying? He's had 12 in a week. He had 9. Then he had 12, then he had 7. I think he can get you 6.5 versus Buffalo, because Buffalo's defense does allow guys to move the ball a lot. They play bend but don't break. I see Carolina kicking a lot of field goals. I think he'll eat. And then the Cincinnati Bengals defense is so horrible, and Nick Folk always gets you at least 6 kicker points pretty much every week outside of that Buffalo Bills game, interestingly enough. And then Joey Slide, the Tennessee Titans, they're a bad red zone team. They can probably move the ball against the Colts, but and again, as you can see on the screen right now, this guy typically gets well over 5.5 kicker points. He had 7 last week. He had 10 the week before that. I don't think he played, or either the Tennessee Titans just got shut out against the Texans or whatever. But before then, he was going 12, 13. Like, he was doing enough in one game to last you 2 games getting over the line right here. So I actually think this is going to be a really fun creative play. Again, follow if you want to. This is trying to turn 20 into 1,661. And I just did this before I started recording this video. So this should be fresh and the line should still be there. Shouts out to Sleeper. Now let's get back to the second half of this video. Now let's dive into Daron Payne's new injury and Cosmi's injury that we've known about since Thursday. So as you can see on the screen right now with the injury report, first of all, good news, Samuel Cosmi, whatever this back injury was, again, he had a torn ACL that he suffered in January that took him forever to recover from, and then he finally made his 2025 debut since the first time we've seen him play or do anything since January against the Cowboys. Then apparently he suffered some sort of back injury that kept him out of Thursday's practice, but then not only did he return on Friday, he practiced in full, so we're good to go there. Of course, Jada Daniels, we already know he's been pronounced out, so just pretty much ignore that one. They still have to report it. Then Daron Payne. Apparently, whatever injury he suffered on Thursday, it didn't show up on the injury report. Otherwise, I would have talked about it with my previous video late last night. But, and I'm only knowing this because Nigga Javala said it. Okay? He had the injury back on Thursday, probably suffered it against the Cowboys. Somehow it didn't show up on the injury report, which I thought was pretty much illegal in NFL terms. But either way, they finally reported it, and he has not practiced so far at all this week. So you're getting Terry and Debo back, but man, we got to really watch out for Daron Payne potentially being injured. And then Terry McLaurin and Debo Samuel all full. Bobby Wagner all full. Again, it's interesting that he did not have a rest day, but he does have a thumb injury. We'll see what goes on with that. The Colson Yonkov, no injury to report on Thursday, and then suddenly limited with a hamstring injury on Friday, but that's not major news there. But shouts out to Josh Taylor, brings up a great point that Payne has been back to playing at a high level all season, especially in that Cowboys game. And even in the blowout loss against the Cowboys, he made plays, including a safety, couple of batted down passes, all kinds of stuff, bro. And then the defense is going to have to shift to more of a 3-4 look. First of all, just the fact that we don't have Dietrich Wise nor Dorrance Armstrong, both of those guys potentially out for the season, along with their backup, the third edge rusher on the depth chart. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, your top 3 edge rushers are gone. So, of course, you have to schematically change some things, bro. I mean, I know we can get on Joe Whitt Jr.'s head for not doing a lot of things wrong, but it's not a lot of defensive coordinators that can out there find a way to constantly generate pressure and make the right adjustments when you lose your top 3 edge rushers, especially one that was 5th in the NFL in sacks and Dorrance Armstrong. But either way, that means Frankie Louvu is going to have to get more looks as a pure outside linebacker going after the quarterback rather than this more of an off-ball linebacker role he's been playing more this season than he was last year for whatever reason. I don't know why Joe Whitt Jr.'s been doing that. I think Frankie Louvu is far better when he's attacking after the quarterback trying to get in the backfield, but we'll see. But Payne, Eddie Goldman, and Javon Kinlaw were the interior defensive linemen on a majority of the 3-4 looks that we tried to adjust to towards the Cowboys. Just to let you know, Joe Whitt Jr. made some changes to the scheme. Because of Dietrich Wise and Dorrance Armstrong being out, we changed how we played. We usually were playing a little bit more 4-3, pretty much the majority of the season. Now that you've lost those guys going into that Cowboys game, we played a lot more 3-4. And of course, again, that means you have Javon Kinlaw, Eddie Goldman, and Daron Payne on the field at the same time. But if you don't have Payne in this upcoming game against the Chiefs, that means Johnny Newton is going to have to step up and play a lot more. And the only reason that scares me is because run situations. I like Johnny Newton in pass rush situations, but when it comes to having to hold up against an offensive lineman, especially if it's a double team, he just gets bullied all the way back into basically the locker rooms. So if he could just work on some of that strength, maybe we can be in business. Maybe we can get something going. But either way, I think we'll be just fine, though. I think we'll figure it out. But again, that's just another adjustment that Joe Whitt Jr. has to make for this defense. And speaking of that, Joe Whitt Jr. spoke to the media after Friday's practice, October 24th, and said that the defense is focusing on speeding up the play of the defense, which means trimming play calls that have too many layers to them that might delay communication and processing speed. Doesn't this sound familiar? He's literally reiterating what Dan Quinn told everybody back after Thursday's or the before Thursday's practice on October 23rd. Joe Whitt Jr. speaks after practice Friday, October 24th, and tells you pretty much the exact same things. The purpose of everything is to get these guys playing faster, and they feel like even if we are a little bit slow, athleticism and actual physical wise, our actual bodies, especially a guy like Bobby Wagner at his age, at the very least we can get them playing mentally faster to where they can be in better situations to make plays more often. But he talked about how they're reviewing play calls and layers within the calls to help pick up the play speed for the team. He said, quote, "You have to take hesitation out of the equation," unquote. The full-blown quote was, quote, "As a coach, we have to take doubt out of the equation. We've pared things back a little bit, and that will allow guys to play fast," unquote. He said rather than changing their look based on if a quarterback is in gun or under center, they're just going to keep the call the same to keep guys playing fast, or they allow them to play faster than they have been. And that's really interesting. So basically, Joe Whitt Jr. so far this season was like, well, if a team is in gun, or if they're under center, like single back or I formation, those are 2 different play calls. Now he's like, scrap all of that. We're just going to have one play call no matter what the offense is doing. We're going to simplify things as much as possible and just hope that y'all can make plays. Basically just taking the coaching out of it. He feels like he and Dan Quinn have come to an agreement that maybe we were over coaching these guys a little bit. Maybe we were having too much input and too much of an impact on what happens. If a offense is doing this, all right, me as a defensive coordinator, Joe Whitt Jr. steps in and say, okay, we're going to do this. He's like, forget that. We're just going to make things simple, and y'all is going to have to go out there and make plays, and then we'll see how that goes, basically. And then he was also asked, in addition to paring down the calls, they considered personnel changes on defense as well. That's the really interesting part, because Dan Quinn didn't want to let everybody know that. He kind of kept that vanilla and bland, as far as we might, we may, we'll see. Joe Whitt Jr. straight up said, yeah, we're making defensive changes, potentially personnel changes. That means players. Dan Quinn made it seem like it was only going to be scheme, play calls, play designs, and stuff like that. Joe Whitt Jr. is like, man, you're probably going to see some different players out there. He said, quote, yeah, and you'll probably see some of it this week, unquote. So what are we potentially talking about? Are we talking about Mike Sanders still back outside, who's been struggling somewhat inside when he looked really good outside? Are we talking about some people have been hypothesizing maybe throwing Marshawn Lattimore at safety? Highly doubt we make a move like that at all, let alone this early into a season, but we'll see. Who knows? How about the defensive line changes that we've already talked about, especially if Daron Payne has to be hurt? But even if Daron Payne is available and he plays against the Chiefs, we do have to be more of a 3-4 defense rather than a 4-3 defense that that we were before everybody started getting hurt. And it was a really, I mean, that 4-3 defense was really working. Teams could not run the ball against us. I remember going into that Bears game, like, no running back has really ran against us very well. Then the Bears and Cowboys game has everybody forgetting that our run defense was actually really good before we lost our top 3 edge rushers. But either way, you're going to have to make some defensive changes there on the defensive line. Or how about we actually start to play young players with more speed more often, like Jordan McGee specifically? And then Joe Whitt Jr. dove into that. He said that he was pleased with the play of linebackers Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, but also, and I wasn't necessarily, but hey, shouts out to him for having his players backs. But he said in addition to that, Jordan McGee's work warrants more snaps, and Payne Medrano may even get some looks. Mind you, I think Payne Medrano has been inactive every game this season. So you're going to see more Jordan McGee, according to Joe Whitt Jr. We'll see if he keeps his promise. And then you're actually going to see some Payne Medrano. And all of those are pretty big deals. You're finally going to have speed at linebacker. Of course, with that, you're going to have less experience. You're going to have less nuance. You're probably going to have a little less awareness and discipline, gap filling and run fills, all of that type of stuff. But at the very least, you're going to have some speed, bro. You're going to have some open field tackles. I will never forget, against the Cowboys game just this past weekend, Frankie Louvu missed a tackle on Javonte Williams in the backfield in a phone booth. Javonte Williams didn't even have that much wiggle room to make him miss and still forced him to miss. Meanwhile, like a play or two later, Jordan McGee goes out there and makes a crazy open field tackle while a guy's trying to block him. It was just crazy, the juxtaposition between Frankie Louvu's tackling and speed versus Jordan McGee's tackling and speed. And that was the exact play that probably made Joe Whitt Jr. realize, okay, maybe the fans and the Commanders, YouTubers and keep content creators like StreetScores, maybe they're right. Maybe Jordan McGee should play more. But even going further into that, Whitt said that they wanted to get Jordan McGee more snaps. McGee has done a nice job in limited action. We're going to give Jordan McGee more looks and more opportunities, unquote. He's come in, he's played good with good speed, so I'm excited to see him with this snap count going up. McGee has played in 7 games this season with 1 start, technically. The linebacker has been primarily used on special teams, 81% of the team's special team snaps, so that's what he's been doing. But on defense, he's only played just 10% of snaps, just 10, that's it. The linebacker has 11 tackles and 1 tackle for loss on the season. And of course, again, he added that Payne Medrano will play as well. Mind you, Payne Medrano is a 6th round rookie out of UCLA, being coached up by his former coach at UCLA, Ken Norton Jr., who's our linebackers coach right now. He made his NFL debut against the Atlanta Falcons in week 4, but hasn't seen the field since. So my bad. He actually has played at some point this season, but it was very little. Now, of course, they'll be interested to see how the linebackers are utilized in this pivotal matchup. Bobby Wagner has been one of the best off-ball linebackers in the league, according to Pro Football Focus, especially when it comes to run stopping, while Frankie Louvu has been more mediocre compared to last season. But I feel like that's more of how Joe Whitt Jr. is using them than just Frankie Louvu just suddenly fell off a cliff. The only part about Frankie Louvu, like himself, that I feel like has taken a step back is his tackling, his open field tackling especially. But everything else, I feel like it's more so Joe Whitt Jr. just not using them correctly. But the Commanders hope Jordan McGee and Medrano's speed gives the defense something that is lacked. And I mean, yeah, we've definitely lacked speed on the overall team, but I feel like the linebacker group has probably been the slowest part of the entire team all season so far. Now, shouts out to Josh Taylor. He brings up the Commanders do need a youth movement. He said it's no secret that the Commanders are the oldest team in the league, and it shows on film with their lack of speed on plays. There's no reason to hold out the guys you just drafted while you continue to see the older guys burned in coverage. I completely agree. You've given them 7 weeks. Now it's time to throw those young guys out there. You should have done it sooner. The team obviously has a lot of changes that need to be made this offseason, but taking a look at what you have on your roster right now is the move to make this season already slipping away at halfway mark. If the defense continues to look the same way in the upcoming games against the Kansas City Chiefs, Seattle Seahawks, and Detroit Lions, you can expect even more changes, and the Commanders maybe even possibly turning into sellers at the trade deadline. Hopefully we don't get to that point. You know, I'm probably going to work on a separate video diving into whether we should be buyers or sellers, or should we just sit on our hands and do nothing coming up with the trade deadline early November. But either way, most importantly, shouts out to Deuce Red Zone at Red Zone in the Lab on Twitter. He brought up a great point. He even has 6 minutes and 19 seconds of film study in all 22 of Jordan McGee. I don't want to show this on here just in case, you know, if the NFL gets mad, YouTube, you know, flags the video or whatever. But definitely go check that out out. Again, that's at Red Zone in the Lab. And with the 6-minute and 19-second film session that he throws on Twitter, he also included his stats versus Dallas. He said the most snaps in his career with 21 against the Dallas Cowboys. He had the most tackles of his career with 4. He had the most line of scrimmage stops in his career with 3. He only allowed 2 receptions for 4 yards in 6 coverage snaps. He had an 87.7 defensive grade according to Pro Football Focus, bro. The more he played, the better he played, and he definitely mattered and impacted our defense in a positive way. So please play him more often. And it's not just Jordan McGee as well. Seawall Sports brought up a great question. Asking defensive coordinator Joe Whitt Jr. about his assessment of the team's communication, he said one thing that he mentioned was the response of not having Will Harris due to injury, who was an excellent communicator. I don't think it's any coincidence that this defense has gotten way worse, not only when your top edge rushers get hurt, but also Will Harris got hurt. Will Harris being hurt has really hurt us, specifically against tight ends probably the most, but also communications-wise and all of those big plays that we've been allowing over the top, rather than just like, I feel like even against the Packers when he was healthy, it was more so underneath stuff that was killing us, and then it would just go for bigger plays. I don't feel like it was just a bunch of just straight up deep bombs, 70-yard touchdowns and stuff like that. That's been happening more often with Will Harris out. Whitt straight up said that Will Harris was a very good communicator, and his loss has been key to this defense. They've been inconsistent with their communication. Of course, you're hoping that somebody like Darnell Savage or Jeremy Reeves or even Tyler Owens, I haven't forgotten about him. Maybe one of those guys can step up, but man, it's been really troubling without Will Harris out there. But shouts out to Seawall Sports again. She was the one that asked the question. Here's her uploading the clip of his 55-second response to the question right here, if you're interested.
Hey, Coach, I know one of the things that you all have been talking about is, I'm going back to your point about communication. So what is your assessment thus far through the 7 games on how you all are doing in that area, and what are some things that you could do, if need be, to correct that?
You know, it's been a little bit like the play. It's been, certain guys have been really good communicators. Some haven't. Nobody really talks about the loss of Will Harris, who was a really good communicator. But that's one reason that we will, pare some things back to eliminate some communications that we might have in reduction play. So, but it's been like we played. It's been not good enough, and how we've played hasn't been good enough. So we've been really diligent of looking at every aspect of it, and we got to get it turned. We got to get it turned, and we need to get it turned now. So.
And then lastly, before we go, Cliff Kingsbury spoke to the media as well. And the most interesting thing that he had to say, he talked about how he's been pleased with what he has seen from Mariota so far this season. He said nothing will change in terms of game plan, but they will call more plays for him that specifically he likes. So the offense will not be the exact same as when Jaden Daniels is out there. It's not going to be like an overall difference, but there will be specific plays and things like that that are tailored to what Marcus Mariota prefers. And I appreciate Cliff Kingsbury for taking the time to do that. Rather than forcing Marcus Mariota to adjust to his offense, he'll adjust his offense and collaborate with Marcus Mariota and make sure that he's as comfortable as possible, and we have the best chance to go out there and succeed and potentially pull off a huge upset against the Kansas City Chiefs Monday night. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you about everything discussed here. Please step on that like button, step on the subscription button, step on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release informative and opinionated videos just like this one, man. Shouts out to Watch to the End gang, man. Really, really appreciate y'all. If you made it this far in the video, if you're still watching me, or even just listening to me, you have the phone somewhere else, TV somewhere else, in your phone in your pocket, whatever. If you're still hearing me, salute to you. Really appreciate you personally. Appreciate that. And also shouts out to Noti Gang that's on these videos immediately after I release them. And shouts out to Late Night Crew as well, putting them the vampire hours just like me. It's 4:10 a.m. By the time y'all get this, it'll probably be 5 a.m. So shouts out to y'all, man. Make sure to leave a like on the way out. And of course, let me know how you feel about Terry and Debo's against chances of playing against the Chiefs. Do you feel like it's even worth it for them to go out there? Also, let me know how you feel about Deron Payne's new injury and if that could potentially really hurt us on defense. Also, let me know how excited you are about the fact that Samuel Cosmi injury doesn't seem to be that bad. And then most importantly, let me know how you feel about everything Joe Whitt Jr. had to say, especially with the fact that it sounds like Jordan McGee will play a lot more and Kane Madrano will finally play just some at all. So let me know how y'all feel about all of that. Do you feel like Jordan McGee should play more? Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of the points that I brought up. Let me know how you feel about everything and why. Really appreciate y'all. Leave a like on the way out. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.